What's up, guys? How's it going? Glad to have you back. And wow, I'm sure a lot of you guys have been checking it out. It looks like there was a possible assassination attempt on former President Donald J. Trump at one of his rallies in Pennsylvania. So I just got this notification, I think about 45 minutes ago. Mother in law reached out to me and let me know what was going on. Hey, look, I know I don't talk about politics that much, so I'm really trying to avoid the political aspect of this possible assassination attempt. And I say possible because we want to make sure we have confirmed sources that this was, in fact, an assassination attempt. So I'm just making sure that I'm as correct as possible when delivering this information and also being objective about the situation. So without further ado, we're going to jump right into the news feed. It's actually coming from Fox News Live, Fox Now on their channel here I'm watching a YouTube live feed. So let's go ahead and check it out real quick and see what's going on.
Don't know much, or sometimes called 9mm short. Those are smaller rounds or a 25 caliber round. These are all smaller rounds, and these might be rounds that somebody would put in, say, an improvised firearm that they could basically sneak into a rally like this and maybe use it as a weapon. They wouldn't have, they probably wouldn't have a lot of rounds that they could fire. It wouldn't be a fully fledged firearm like a regular semi-automatic weapon. It'd probably be very limited in what it could do. And but that could have been somebody who was right there. Although what we see is that there was somebody. Everybody turned off, to President Trump's right, and they were all looking out that direction. And so I'm waiting to find out where this individual, where they actually, engaged him and basically killed him, the shooter. I want to find that out because it looks like the round did come from President Trump's right hand side. He was turned to the right, and he got winged in the ear. He got grazing fire in the ear, and he has an injury there. And it could be that somebody was aiming for his head, and with something like that,
That's
he
what
may
I
have
was thinking.
tilted his head. He could have done a lot of things and that basically was very fortuitous in terms of he moved in such a way that it wasn't a more catastrophic injury. But we don't know. We don't know all the circumstances. What we do know is that obviously he's okay, with the exception, of course, he got, he has a small injury in his ear where the round hit. But we don't have a lot of other stuff. But they're going to be looking very closely. A lot of times, as we say in the terrorism world, before they're acting out in the real world, they're usually active as you can imagine in the virtual world, and they're communicating through social media and various other platforms with like-minded individuals that may have the same sort of violent extremist beliefs that they have, assuming that this is a violent extremist thing, which it could be simply some other motivation. It could be mental illness. It could be a lot of different things. But they're going to be looking at that to find out, is there more than just this one incident? Is there possibly a broader conspiracy? Could there be others out there who are planning to do something connected to this? And that's what they're going to be trying to figure out very quickly.
All right, Hal, we're going to keep the conversation going with you. Austin Westfall, my colleague here, going to be preparing to continue on this coverage. Austin, thank you so much for joining us as we continue with this developing story and everything that you've been able to provide to this context. We're going to see you up here in just a little bit. For everyone else that's going to stick with us here, though, Hal, I want to continue on with kind of the next steps. I did have a question when it comes to this rally and everything that happened there. I did see that almost immediately after they escorted the president, the former president, out of there, everybody kind of dispersed and all of the attendees left. Is that protocol? Wouldn't it be almost beneficial to investigators to kind of keep witnesses there on the scene, or how do they go about processing that and making sure that no suspect were to get away? Of course, we do know now that the shooter is dead. One person was killed. But again, how does that entire process work?
Well, normally what they want to do is, first off, they don't necessarily want to keep them in place. They don't necessarily want to keep them, in the stands. I mean, that's an active crime scene. They have to investigate that. So they're going to want to move people
That's right.
to another area where they can interview them. They can do anything else. They can look at any potential forensic evidence that they may have on them. And so they're going to be doing a lot of that. They will probably move them out, and I would hope in an orderly manner. That's been an issue with crowd control, and that's one of the things I do is I work on what's called crowd management, train crowd managers for incidents like this on how we move people from point A to point B to where we can control the situation and do all these other things that have to be done. And hopefully that's the case. Now, there have been events in the past where there was a shooter and sometimes the crowd disperses and it happens so quickly that there isn't a lot of control on where they go. And that's very difficult because they have to go back and figure out who was there. And it can make for a very lengthy investigative process. And there can be gaps in the investigation because they're trying to figure out who was there and who wasn't there. So they're going to be doing that. The other thing they're going to be doing is they're also going to be looking at all the video from people's cell phones, from media, from everything else. And they're going to be trying to identify everybody who was at this rally. They want who they are, why they were there. They're going to want all the information they possibly can. They're going to interview each and every one of them. And they're also going to be keeping in mind that there could have been, depending on what they find out, they're going to be looking initially to find out if there are any other potential co-conspirators, if you will. Somebody that could have been in the crowd that was planning on either that was doing something to assist the shooter or maybe was there in some sort of assistant sort of role. Maybe they were a backup shooter or something. There could be a lot of different scenarios that they have to rule out very quickly. Secret Service is extremely good at this. They know the mind of a would-be assassin or assassins probably better than anybody else in the world. That's what they do. They fully understand the mindset, whether it's based on violent extremist beliefs, whether it's based on some sort of mental illness, if you will, a variety of other motivations that they might have. And they have this pretty much figured out.
Okay, so I think he's covered part of this. So I'm going to pause it real quick and just do a quick recap of what he's been talking about. Also, from the same channel as well, what has been discovered. So what you guys are hearing is that the person or the person who fired the initial shot in the attempted assassination of former President Donald J. Trump has been killed. I'm not sure how. I'm not sure if there was some or there was a report on how he was killed, whether he took his own life or if somebody got a shot off or it was the federal services that actually took out the assailant. So this is some pretty scary times. It's got me a little shook, to be honest with you. Because this is something very different in my time. I wasn't around during the JFK era, and I think I was just a little kid, when it came to the late President Ronald Reagan's attempted assassination. So it's a little freaky, to see something like that at this caliber at this time. It is election year, so we just have to be careful about certain people and their political beliefs, because some people, from what you might see here, takes it to the extreme. And here's the thing, I'm not going to tell you what my political stance is on the matter, but I do realize that, objectively speaking, this is indeed egregious, whether it was former President Donald J. Trump or if it was former President Barack Obama, whoever it is down the line, even up to the current president, President Joe Biden. This is a pretty serious situation, and the fact that he's dead kind of cuts off part of a lead, because now, with whatever that person may have known, to determine whether or not he had some co-conspirators or if he was following marching orders, that will not be able to be found out from this individual. So there are confirmed reports, and from what the Fox News was saying, that New York Post, I believe, is saying that the assailant is confirmed dead. So it's unfortunate that they won't be able to glean any information from this attempted assassin, who is now now dead. From what we know as far as the health of Donald J. Trump, former President Donald J. Trump, is that he is doing fine. He is in recovery, as you can see in the videos that you might have seen circling around, and even some of the playbacks that they've been doing here on the channel on Fox Live, is that the bullet grazed his ear, which is safe to say, me being, you know, I practice firearms. You know, I'm a former soldier, so I understand firearms and the concept of center mass, headshots, things of that nature. This looks to be a headshot attempt. And just obvious, you know, for obvious reasons. They shot at they got his ear. Maybe his head was a different way, or he moved or turned last minute. Maybe they had a center shot, and they, at that point, had the shot, and maybe at that last split of a second, former President Trump moved his head. Thankfully so, because we don't want to go around assassinating our political rivals. That's just not happening. You know, it's messed up. You know, we saw it with President Lincoln, with JFK, whomever, you know, whatever happened with that situation, again, wasn't around that time. And also former President Ronald Reagan, or say late President Ronald Reagan, with the assassination attempt on his life. That was not successful. You know, I'm not gonna lie. You know, like I said earlier, and I know I keep talking in loops here, but it's just, you know, it has me a bit nervous because, you know, I'm not sure what would possibly lead a person up to that standpoint to want to kill somebody that you don't even know for political, ideological reasons, not realizing that a lot of the politics that we have here in America, we actually have more things. It's safe to say there are sharp dividing differences that we might have with one another, but I think that goes beyond politics and more so into the human conscience. But when it comes to politics and policies that can affect swath of people, I think that for all in all, we want good things. We want good to happen. And I'll say that for the bulk of the population. There are some people like anarchists or anti-government establishment individuals who want nothing but the downfall of a society just to watch it burn for the sake of watching it burn. And it's unfortunate they may think like that, but I know for the most part that the bulk of the population wants to see our country do well. So with that being said, I think it's important for us to remember that we have a lot more similarities than we do differences when it comes to what we might think about another individual. I know that I will say with the safe amount of certainty that whatever a person's political beliefs are in opposition to mine, we probably have more similarities than differences because we're talking about politics. No two people are going to think the same. You know, no two people like the same pizza, you know, if you will. But I hope that this can rally the people as far as human decorum, regardless of political ideologies. From there doesn't seem to be any statements coming from the White House just yet. What we know now, what's been reported from Fox News, is that President Biden has been briefed on the situation. I don't know if he's gone into a bunker or something to that effect. But the White House has been briefed President Biden on the situation. And as you heard, the chain of command is being gone. You know, they're going down the line, the chain of command down to the Homeland Security, which is Mayorkas. And forgive me if I'm pronouncing that name wrong, because this is a homeland issue happened here on American soil. So that will be his purview as far as oversight. So let's jump back into it and let's see if there are any other updates.
Be doing all of these things, but whatever did happen, you know, whatever wounds he has, they're dealing with those. But with that, I would fully expect that's the way they're gonna handle this. And in fact, I would expect they're gonna treat it as an attempted assassination, unless
I would
there's
agree.
some compelling evidence that it wasn't an attempted assassination, because that would be kind of a immediate default of what you have to go into, you know, as what are you looking at? And I can't imagine any other conclusion that they would have at this point based on everything we've seen.
I think that was going to be my next question. To say attempted assassination, what kind of evidence would have to be in place for investigators to come to that conclusion? But I
It's a
guess what you
great
were trying to
question.
say here is that it is an attempted assassination unless proven otherwise.
Well, based on just what they have right there, you know, you have a, you have the protectee was wounded. Again, not a life-threatening wound, but it was a serious, a serious attempt, and then
Jesus.
somebody that was there was killed, was murdered, if you will. Um, and so that obviously, if somebody was killed, then whatever use of force that the would-be assassin or the shooter
Look at
had
him, defiant. He's
was serious
defiant.
enough that they could have obviously killed former President Trump had they, had they hit him if there had been a different type of shot.
Look at him, man.
So they
That's
have to kind of treat that
my
as an
God.
attempted assassination. Right now there would be no other conclusion I certainly could come to that this was anything but a attempted assassination. This wasn't, there was some speculation initially when they didn't know if there was if former President Trump had actually been hit. There was some speculation that maybe it could have been firecrackers or something like that. And
No, that sounded like gunfire.
you could have said that initially, maybe if you didn't have any information, and that there was some speculation out there on that. Obviously, this is nothing like that. This was a bona fide attempt to assassinate a political candidate, and they were using a weapon capable of deadly force because not only did it injure the former president, but it killed somebody. Somebody who was a bystander and somebody else around. And we don't
I'm
have
wondering
any
if that's a
information on
stray.
particulars on that, but obviously that tells you whatever weapon they have was capable of causing a fatal injury.
All right, so looking here,
I'm wondering if that bullet
very
was a
powerful
stray.
and compelling image that we have from our partners at Fox 4 News. We're going to continue on throughout the course of this evening as we learn more from this very scary situation over in Butler, Pennsylvania, happening earlier today. Hal Kemper.
I wonder if I got my Facebook set up on my bot rigs.
Speak with you as we learn more. We're dissecting the situation. Just reports that it's being investigated as an attempted assassination. We're going to have more from you coming up in a little bit. Stick with us here. For now, everyone else that is continuing to join us, or if you are just joining us now, we are following this breaking news from earlier today in Butler, Pennsylvania. Two people dead, the shooter and also an attendee that attended the
So two people dead so far.
We did carry that moment live for you. We have been playing it for you throughout the course of this evening in case you have missed it, so you can see the moment that all of this unfolded. I would like to go ahead and reset now that we're about to hit the top of the hour here. We're going to continue our commentary. We are nonstop as we continue to get more information from this. Again, a shooting at a Trump rally from earlier today, now being investigated as an attempted assassination. If you are just joining us now, watch the moments this all unfolded.
I think I started from.
Before we do showcase that, as I said, this is developing and we continue to get breaking news. We have President Biden tweeting on this event. Take a look here. He says this: I have been briefed on the shooting at Donald Trump's rally in Pennsylvania. I am grateful to hear that he's safe and doing well. I'm praying for him and his family and for all those who were at the rally as we await further information. Jill and I are grateful to the Secret Service. The president here echoing similar statements that we heard from the former President Trump earlier today as he thanked law enforcement and also the Secret Service agents that helped during that time as we heard those shots ring out during that rally. The former president taking to the podium and speaking at around 6 p.m. Eastern time. That rally was supposed to happen at 5 p.m. Eastern time. It was about an hour late. About 5 minutes into the former president speaking is when those shots first rang out. But again, here on your screen, we are finally getting official word and a statement from President Biden, saying again, I have been briefed on the shooting at Donald Trump's rally in Pennsylvania. I'm grateful to hear that he's safe and doing well. I'm praying for him and his family and for all those who were at the rally as we await further information. Jill and I are grateful to the Secret Service. Again, though, if you are just joining us, we have just hit the top of the hour, and we are going to once again showcase the moment that all of that unfolded earlier today in Butler, Pennsylvania. Let's watch.
And look what happened to our country. Probably 20 million people. And you know, that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old. And if you want to really see something that's sad, take a look at what happened.
He got nicked in the ear. It looks like he got nicked in the ear from the first shot. And people are looking to the left side of the screen. You got people looking in another direction. Now they're looking to my right, their left. Cell phones are out. Why'd they tighten the shot? Why didn't they widen the shot on the camera? There we go. A little panning. All right, in the upper left. Got people filming to the left. Assuming that's where the shot came from because he got nicked in his ear. I mean, it could have been from behind him, but people are looking in the general direction. They're right, my left. All right, they got him secure. Got the QRF for a quick reactionary force ready. Huddling around him, forming a human shield. Look at that. I mean, how would you feel if somebody tried to take your life and you survived? Like, I mean, it's both scary and, like, it's just scary. Yeah, I got him in his right ear. It looks like his blood coming out. Yeah, get him out. I mean, they got him out there, but I'm saying it now in hindsight. Just get him out there. Get him out of there. That's right. Raise that hand, sir. It's crazy.
And look what happened to him.
Okay, so that clip playing back, and this is something that we're going to stick with for the rest of the evening. We do have national security analyst Hal Kemper still standing by with us here. We're going to keep talking this through. We're getting more and more details in as the evening progresses. As Carell,
That's President Biden's tweet,
has been reporting this breaking news,
or I should say
showed
X. I'm
just
saying
moments
X
ago,
tweet.
the president has been briefed on the shooting at this rally. He says that he's grateful to hear that he's safe and doing well. Biden saying, "I'm praying for him and his family and for all of those who were at the rally as we await further information." So, Hal, let's just talk about how we could have gotten here. You've been talking at length about the digital aspect to investigations like this. I'm curious, how do investigators sift through all the noise to find
Yeah, it's a lot of data to sift through.
You have to imagine,
I mean, timeline and
alphabetization.
Alphabetizing. Looks like he went out. He's muted out. There we go.
I thought the Secret Service, U.S. Secret Service, does this better than any other organization in the world in terms of proactive protection. The Secret Service is a little different. Yes, they do investigations. You know, they solve crimes. But in the protection side, when they're looking at protecting, whether it's a candidate or a president or vice president or whoever the protectee is, they have to take a very proactive stance because their goal is not to solve the crime. Their goal is to stop the crime from ever taking place. So they go out there and they are interviewing anybody who threatens or poses a potential threat to whomever it is they're protecting. A lot of times today, that will be found online. It'll be found in social media. It'll be found in various different things, group chats, all sorts of things that people will be saying stuff. And it's not uncommon that they will get a knock on the door from Secret Service agents who will have a little discussion with them to find out more information and to let them know that they're very much on their radar. And more often than not, that's all it takes. And that will deter somebody from doing something. And in many cases, they'll find someone is spiraling in a certain direction, and they were able to bring resources to bear to deal with what could be mental illness or some other problem that resulted in whatever threat that person may have put out there. So they tend to be very proactive. In this case, somebody obviously got to the rally. Somebody actually fired a weapon at former President Trump, killed somebody else who was there. So it was a
Goodness.
use of deadly force in that regard, because
Yeah.
obviously, if it killed somebody, that's deadly force by definition. And so they're going to be looking at how they didn't find this person. That'll be a question they'll ask. But they're also going to be trying to figure out, was this person associated with somebody else? They'll be looking at all sorts of possible motivations of someone who might do something like this, who would want to kill former President Trump, and they'll.
So that's an interesting point. So what he's talking about is pretty much dumping this person's socials. If they have socials, if they have affiliates, they're gonna, Secret Services, they're gonna pull every single thread, and that person's life, posthumously is going to be pulled apart, piece for piece. And when now I'll say that when I was in the military and they were doing investigations, and even when I was contracting for the government, and they start doing investigations on you for different types of clearances, they'll go into your life. They'll talk to family members, in-laws, ex-in-laws, and they will just start asking questions, and because they want to make sure that the person that they're giving a set of keys to the kingdom, if you will, is not trying to cause problems. So that's what they're going to be doing here, is pulling this guy's life apart posthumously. Probably talking to his mother and father still around, high school, all the way back to high school, to see what type of person they might have been, what type of groups that he might have been associated with, and just any of his potential current friends. It's gonna. I mean, I would say every stone will be unturned. There's no unworthy stone not to be unturned, if that makes any sense. They're gonna be thorough. So one thing that he pointed out, interestingly enough, is the intelligence portion. So I'm an analyst, and what I do is, my full-time job is an analyst, or what you would call a threat hunter. And what we do is we quote unquote look for quote evil within an enterprise network, and we're trying to find all sorts of evil that might be going on to make sure that our clients are well taken care of. Now, when it comes to gathering threat intelligence, we don't just walk into network and just start searching all the things. We don't look at all the logs. We look at specific set of logs that might be indicative to a threat actor. So we're gathering intelligence, and what we're trying to do is find behavior, and we're searching for that behavior throughout this enterprise network. We're searching for any type of malware. We're searching for any type of memory abuse. Whether it's whether somebody whether a threat actor is trying to abuse the hard drive, software, network. We call them endpoints, but your workstations. If you have a job that involves a computer, we start searching across workstations, and we have what's called log collectors, or event collectors that track all of the behaviors that's done on a workstation, on a network, on an application, and I'm forgetting the fourth. There's a fourth one, memory. I think it's memory. I'm forgetting stuff. But anyways, what I'm saying is they're trying to figure out the behavior of this threat actor to go after the actions of that threat actor and stop them in their tracks. Of course, this person was able to carry out what they were intended to do, not successfully. They were able to carry it out. So now they're doing what's called backtracking. And a lot of you are going to be familiar with this stuff. But for those who are not, they do a lot of backtracking, and they do a lot of things that I'd said earlier as far as picking that person's life apart. So that's something that we do, that I do as an analyst, is picking, a threat actor's activities apart and dissecting everything, overlooking nothing. And of course, once if we find anything, the thing is, if there's something, we hope that we find it, but we don't hope that we find something. So we go off of the aspect of, I'm looking for evil, but I hope I don't find it. However, if it's there, I hope that I find it so that we can report it and let our client know and advise and consult to our client, hey, this is what's going on. We're not only going to give you the problem, but show you the problem. We're also going to provide recommendations on resolution, mitigation, detection, prevention, things of that nature. So a bit of a thorough process of what I do. There's gonna be some overlap in what I do and what you'll also see, or even probably read about, what some of the Secret Service guys are going to be doing, is just that thorough investigation, just following all leads wherever they may lead to. So I do hope that, and I say this part because of what I said earlier about if there's evil, hope they find it. If there is another thread, if you will, with the posthumous person that tried to assassinate President Trump, I really hope they do find it. And I'm confident that they will. However, I don't hope that there is. You know what I'm saying? So I really do, they're the Secret Service. They know all, I won't say they know everything, but they know a lot of things. And I'm pretty confident that they're going to find all the leads, and hopefully that they'll report it to the public, whomever this person might have been tied to. Look, can we just for one moment just put politics aside? We're talking about a man's life. We're talking about the loss of life, the loss of two lives, not just the victim who was caught in crossfire, from what I'm assuming, and but also the person who took their own life. I don't know if they took their own life. I'm still not clear about, it's unclear to me about how the shooter lost their life. So maybe I'll do some data dumping and figure out, what might have happened, if anything's been reported. But here, let's tune back in and see if there are any further updates.
I'm sure they'll be looking at the political spectrum of that, and there's unconfirmed reports of who the shooter is, and it's unconfirmed right now. But what I saw, they were immediately talking about an organization which is it's an by definition, it's Antifa, anti-fascist. Again, it's unconfirmed. We haven't heard
unconfirmed reports of
Antifa on that
Antifa
yet. It may come in very quickly, but if that's the case, that would definitely fit. That's a left-wing anarchist organization.
See, we also have to be careful of scapegoats too. I'm not saying that's what the case is here because it's unconfirmed. Also have to be careful of scapegoats.
To do something as heinous as what you see here, that would fit. But I don't want to jump to conclusions, because
he might want to be careful mentioning something like that.
And frankly, we got to wait till
libel.
the Secret Service comes out to give us a real good definition.
Slander spoken in print and liable. Yeah.
So when we talk about an event like this was a run-of-the-mill campaign rally. We see President Trump doing these on the weekly. This one was in Butler, Pennsylvania. This is about an hour's drive north of Pittsburgh. What kind of challenges do security officials have to deal with when they're trying to secure an event of this magnitude with a presidential candidate and former president in attendance? What are the challenges with keeping something like this secure, Hal?
There is a whole playlist they go off of. It's kind of like like a playbook that they go through, and they do all the. You always hear this. You see it in the movies too. Whenever they talk about Secret Service, the advanced teams, they go up there. So they will go up there and they will look around the area. They will do a site survey. They will work with local law enforcement. They will work with others that they may bring in just for the event. They will try and contain the area. They will look at access control. They will look at line of sight of potential would-be assassins, of where they might position themselves. They look at all sorts of things. They're also looking at how do they get the protectee onto the stage? How do they get them off the stage? where do they position the beast, the vehicle, if you will, the armored vehicle, so they can get them out of harm's
The
way,
beast.
out of possibly being shot or something. And of course, these are all things we just saw play out. Everything you just saw there. So they go through this whole thing and where everybody will stand in proximity. A lot of this is pretty much something that, I mean, it's ingrained in terms of what they do. There's a school. They go through the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, the famous FLETC school at Brunswick, Georgia. I've done training in Brunswick, Georgia, at what's called FLETC out there. But then they go and do additional training, and one of the places they go is to a place near Washington, D.C. called Beltsville. And it's they actually have a full compound, if you will. It's a very extensive thing where they do everything you could possibly imagine in terms of thwarting assassinations. And they go through an extensive training program there where they are vehicular ambushes, everything you can possibly imagine in terms of all the scenarios that they have to be prepared for. So by the time they get out there and do a protectee detail, they're going to have a lot of training under the belt. Now, this particular group, highly trained, they're not the presidential detail. That's a little. Usually, the presidential detail has a lot of other stuff involved with it, and depending on the campaign season, it can really get rather involved. You know, initially in a very robust campaign season, you could have a lot of different candidates out there, all of whom qualify, or most of them will qualify for Secret Service protection. And so they could really drain the resources down. That's a challenge they had. If you remember when President Trump was running for president in 2016, certainly just on the Republican side, there was a lot of different candidates that were running in the primaries, and we kept hearing the Secret Service was spread pretty thin.
So Hal,
they're
I don't mean to cut you off here, Hal.
Other resources.
Yeah, I don't mean to cut you off here, Hal, but we're hearing that President Biden will be speaking very shortly. This is, and we just lost the image. We have another angle that we're watching for, but we are anticipating hearing from the president very shortly on this matter. My colleague Andrew Kraft is standing by right now. We're going to bring him in. Andrew, I want to point out also that we're hearing in from Jackie Heinrich. The Biden campaign tells Fox the Biden campaign is pausing all outbound communications and working to pull down their television ads as quickly as possible. Andrew?
Pull down
let's
there.
talk about the political implications of this. The Biden
Television
campaign
ads?
was in the midst of a $50 million ad blitz this month with spots running in all of the key swing states. The massive ad buy was launched last week, according to reporting from Peter Ducey and Jackie Heinrich. The Biden campaign now pausing all outbound communications, and they're working to pull down television ads as quickly as possible in the wake of this attempted assassination attempt on his chief arch rival in the presidential campaign, of course, Donald Trump. We're also learning that President Biden will be making remarks very, very soon. He's home, I believe, in Wilmington, Delaware at the moment. He went to church tonight, as he is customary to do on Saturday nights there at his parish church in Wilmington. And so we're learning that this is going to be coming very, very soon. We have the statement in from President Biden as well. Let's read that. He says, "I've been briefed on the shooting at Donald Trump's rally in Pennsylvania. I'm grateful to hear that he's safe and doing well. I'm praying for him and his family and for all those who were at the rally as we await further information." It goes on to say, "Jill and I are grateful to the Secret Service for getting him to safety. There's no place for this kind of violence in America. We must unite as one nation to condemn it." So Hal Kempfer, Austin Westfall here in the Live Now newsroom. Definitely a day for the American history books, no less. This is coming 2 days before the start of the Republican National Convention. To
Oh,
Austin
say, guys, I'm
Westfall's
doing a
point, Hal,
screenshot here.
Donald Trump holds
bear with me.
campaign-style rallies weekly. He just had one in Florida this week at his golf course. This has been a common theme and feature of the Trump movement since he came down the golden escalator at Trump Tower in June of 2015, and throughout the duration of the last 8-9 years, We've seen protesters get kicked out of Trump rallies. We have never seen anything like this at a Trump rally. Trump touts his crowd size at these rallies all the time, every chance that he can get. This one turning so deadly and injuring the former president, and he is safe. We're learning as well, of course, from the Secret Service and from senior law enforcement officials. The former president is safe, but the political dynamics, the campaign, the election has fundamentally changed going forward into the later summer here. So we're getting more and more reaction, and we're going to continue to do that here on Live Now with so many Republicans and Democrats alike. I think that's very important to note that from all political stripes, governors, senators, former presidents wishing the former president a speedy recovery, thanking law enforcement for their quick and decisive actions. And we wait for President Biden to address the nation on this, as well as he faces his own questions on his own campaign.
We are hearing from the president right now. Let's listen.
Peacefully without any problem. But the idea.
Here we go. It's President Biden.
That there's political violence or violence in America like this is just unheard of. It's just not appropriate. And everybody must condemn it. Everybody. I'll keep you informed, and if I am able to speak to Donald, I'll let you know that as well. But so far, it appears he's doing well, number one. Number two, that there's thoroughly investigating what happened to anyone else in the audience. We have some reports, but not final reports. And every agency in the federal government, I'm going back to my phone to speak with the federal agencies that are being put together again to give me an updated briefing. Has anything happened? They learned any more in the last couple hours. So thank you very much, and I hope I get to speak to them tonight, and I'll get back to you if I do, okay?
Mr. President, do you think there was an assassination attempt?
I don't know enough to, I have an opinion, but I don't have any facts. So I want to make sure we have all the facts before I make some comment.
It's a smart response.
Are you worried, President? Was the security failing, Mr. President?
Okay, so we missed the very beginning of those remarks. I want to play those back. Here's Biden speaking just moments ago from the top.
Thanks for coming, folks. I've been thoroughly briefed by all the agencies in the federal government as to the situation, based on what we know now. I have tried to get a hold of Donald. He's with his doctors. Apparently he's doing well. I plan on talking to them shortly, I hope, when I get back to the telephone. Look, there's no place in America for this kind of violence. It's sick. It's sick. It's one of the reasons why we have to unite this country. We cannot allow for this to be happening. We cannot be like this. We cannot condone this. And I want to thank the Secret Service and all the agencies, including the state agencies, that have engaged in making sure that the people we have more detail to come relative to other people maybe injured in the audience. I don't have all that detail. We'll make that available to you. I may be able to come back a little later tonight, but we'll put out a statement if I'm not able to if it's not convenient for you all. But the bottom line is, the Trump rally was a rally that he should have been able to be conducted peacefully without any problem. But the idea that there's political violence or violence in America like this is just unheard of. It's just not appropriate. And everybody must condemn it. Everybody. I'll keep you informed, and if I am able to speak to Donald, I'll let you know that as well. But so far, it appears he's doing well, number one. Number two, that there's thoroughly investigating what happened to anyone else in the audience. We have some reports, but not final reports. And every agency in the federal government, I'm going back to my phone to speak with the federal agencies that are being put together again to give me an updated briefing. Has anything happened? They learned any more in the last couple hours. So thank you very much, and I hope I get to speak to them tonight, and I'll get back to you if I do, okay?
Mr. President, do you think there was an assassination attempt?
I don't know enough to, I have an opinion, but I don't have any facts. So I want to make sure we have all the facts before I make any more comments. Thank you.
Are you worried, President? Was the security failing, Mr. President?
All right, so I'm just going to pause there real quick just to offer, some takes on that. So I think that President Biden offered a pretty logical response when it comes to him saying he has an opinion but not facts. I think that's a very wise response to give because we, like I've been saying, we want to be objective. Now, I'm not the president, obviously, but my opinion is that it was an assassination attempt. Now, I say that with a caveat and an asterisk. We want to wait till the facts come in first, what this might have been. Of course, with the political clout that former President Donald J. Trump has, the fact that he has been a former president, and the fact that there are a lot of people that disagree with his political ideologies, and a lot of the fact that there are other people who disagree with his voters, and just a political climate overall during the election season. I would say let's just be mindful. Let's just be careful with what not only what we say but what we do, and remember to not alienate one another when it comes to whatever our opinions might be. But again, it just reeks of an assassination attempt based on the history of former presidents or presidents that have had assassination attempts. Again, an opinion. We need to wait for the facts to come first. I also want to say, when it comes to us as fellow Americans, just talking to my fellow Americans, to have a knee-jerk reaction, to not be reactive and have a knee-jerk response and start doing whatever, because I don't think that's going to help as far as former President Trump's recovery. In its current state, it's not going to help us as an American. I think it's wise for us to be level-headed and let the Secret Service and all the law enforcement agencies do their thing. Hopefully that whatever might exist does in fact come to light, and that no stone is overturned. Anybody who might be affiliated with the assassin, former assassin, or say late assassin, that they be brought to justice, not social justice, because we don't want to be plunged into whatever controversy that there might be that could have been avoided if we just had been sensible. I think it's good for us to be sensible. I have my opinions as far as what this person was trying to do, this assassination was trying to do. But again, we want to be objective. I think this is wrong. What this attempted assassination is, or alleged attempted assassination, again, waiting for the facts. I think it's just flat out wrong. It's messed up. You don't know this person and you want them dead. And I'm not talking about you specifically, but just this former assassin wanted them dead for whatever reasons. I mean, in my own personal convictions, I think that's wrong. When you're talking about taking a human life based on different political ideologies. So let's jump back in and see if there are any other updates, because again, they just replayed that video of President Biden going on record as far as his responses to the attempted assassination or the alleged attempted assassination on former President Donald Trump.
President Biden wrapping up his remarks there. We still have standing by Andrew Kraft and Hal Kempfer both. We have some information in from Jack.
Okay, there it is.
Saying that shooter
counter
killed by
sniper.
Secret Service counter sniper team. 2 additional casualties taken to Pittsburgh Hospital, Fox is told.
So that's 3
per
dead.
law enforcement source. We know that Butler, Pennsylvania is about an hour's drive north of Pittsburgh. And before we were listening in to the president, Andrew, I believe you were discussing some of the politics surrounding this.
Well, that's also so true, Austin, that you heard there from President Biden, who said that he tried to reach former President Trump and that hopefully the two will speak eventually. We know the former president is still at the hospital recovering. We're hearing he's in good spirits, but President Biden, his key political rival, did reach out as well. We're hearing from former presidents too, former President George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, and Barack Obama, all issuing statements as well. But there are so many questions about what happened there at the rally. We have Hal Kempfer on, who has extensive experience with counterterrorism, law enforcement. Hal, you yourself have worked in trainings with Secret Service officials. I want to read the statement in from the Secret Service spokesperson. His name is Anthony Guglielmi. They say this: an incident occurred the evening of July 13th at a Trump rally in Pennsylvania. The Secret Service has implemented protective measures and former president is safe. This is now an active Secret Service investigation.
Good stuff.
And further information will be released when available. We also know the FBI and the ATF are cooperating and assisting with this law enforcement investigation. But we also know, according to sources, this is being, Hal, described as an attempted assassination attempt. We just got that news in from Jackie Heinrich there, that the suspect, the shooter in this, who is now dead, was taken out by members of a Secret Service task force there on the ground in Butler, PA here. Hal, what do you make of those developments? Because the Secret Service's role in all of this and their response, very quick, we watched it there on the stage. They huddled around the former president, tackled him, got him to safety here. What do you make of the Secret Service's response right now, knowing they took out the shooter? Do you have questions about how they went about this, Hal?
Actually, it looks like it was a standard playbook how they do it. The counters. Now that we know that it was a counter sniper that took him out, I'd like to revise something. We have more details.
Okay.
All right. Initially, it was
Cool.
thought maybe this could be somebody who was in close. Maybe it could be a small caliber weapon. If it was a counter sniper that took out whoever the shooter was, it could be the shooter was further out. And again, this goes to sound. The audio is tough to pick up when we're doing it, indirectly here because we aren't physically there. So it could have been that it could have been a little bit further standoff.
Might have been a
than, say,
rifle.
using a small arm like a pistol. We will find out. Could be the counter sniper took out somebody standing right by the stage. That's possible too. But it does open up the possibility that this could have been something with a little bit longer range weapon. I wouldn't rule that out at this point. If it was a counter sniper that took him out. And that's what they do. They look around. They're constantly scanning the area to find out if there's there's a potential threat out there. Of course, once rounds are fired, they zero in on that very quickly to eliminate the threat, which is exactly what they did. Although it's very clear that whatever happened, now we know there were two other people that were injured. We had the report that there was somebody killed. And there is no other conclusion that this would have been an attempted assassination. And I think we're just fortunate that the former president was slightly wounded, but wasn't seriously hurt. So I think they did everything that I would expect.
To our country.
They're going to go back and look at it closely, though. I can tell you they're going to look at they're going to be using this for training purposes for years to come to see if there's something they could have done better.
So, Hal, we're getting more details in just on the minute-by-minute, if not second-by-second timeline of how this all unfolded. According to the Associated Press, it took 2 minutes from the moment of the first shot for Trump to be placed.
Is that the only camera that's there as far as coverage?
You're watching the video now. The former president put his right hand up to his right ear as people in the stands behind him appeared to be shocked there. Also, someone could be heard saying near the microphone at Trump's lectern, "Get down, get down, get down, get down," as agents tackled the former president. They piled atop him to shield him with their bodies, as is their training protocol, as other agents took up positions on stage to search for the threat. Hal, we're asking ourselves where the shooter was in this. Is it safe to say, can we make the determination that the shooter themselves, they were not in the large crowd itself? They weren't mixed in with the rally goers there. We know one of these rally attendees was also killed during this shooting here. And we're going to wait on more of the reporting to come in. But you're alluding to the fact that possibly this shooter was not in the crowd at all.
It's possible.
If they're that far, they might have had a rifle.
One taken out with a counter sniper. All right. If I'm a counter sniper,
If the assassin was that far, they might have had a rifle.
In the crowd, that's a more difficult shot, as you can well imagine, because you have somebody, and certainly with the weapons that they're employing, if they were to do that, they would stand the chance of collateral damage. So if it's what they had to do to eliminate the threat, then they probably have to do it. But that's a more difficult shot. But one thing that jumps out when you look at this is former President Trump had his head turned off to the right when he was talking.
Yeah, if his head was turned straight,
And
it would have hit
as
him in the back of the
shooting
head.
starts, he reaches up to his ear. That indicates that somebody had a shot off to the right, because if they were shooting head on, they would have shot him. It would have been a headshot. So they got him off to the right. Of course, if they were off to the right, that would normally be, this is pretty grisly stuff, but that would normally be a better headshot, because they'd have
Yeah.
a bigger target, because of his head,
Yep.
because of the shape of his head that they could use. He just turned his head, basically narrowed
Thankfully.
the potential head target that a shooter would have from that angle. And the other thing that jumps out is, right after it's done, a number of people behind former President Trump immediately turned to the right. Something got their attention off to the
Yeah.
right, and many of them were staring at
Might
whatever
have saw a
was going
muzzle
on,
flash.
off to the right, which indicates that there's a likelihood that the shooter possibly was off to the right, and that may have been where the shot came from. Again, this is just supposition based on what we're seeing, because we don't have that level of detail. As they release more information, as they look at the scene, as they investigate this further, we should find out, and I'm sure we're going to find out very soon, because they killed the shooter. We'll find out what type of weapon the shooter had. They'll find out where the shooter was placed, and they'll be figuring out how the shooter got into position, how the shooter somehow evaded all the security that goes with an event like this. So we're going to find out more and more about this. And again, Secret Service and others will be using this as training for years to come, to figure out what could they have done better. And I'm sure at this point, there's many are looking at saying, how did the shooter get to wherever the shooter got? Now,
So I'm looking at some of the headlines here. There's one here by CNN, which is really, really peculiar. Let me see if I can blow this up and send this over here. This is really peculiar. Now it says, shooter at Trump rally killed by Secret Service, source says. So, and the reason why I bring that up, I find that headline pretty peculiar, because the focus seems to be on the shooter and not on so much former President Trump. It doesn't mention the fact that President Trump, his life was, somebody made an attempt on his life. I'm not sure why they left that part out, and they just said shooter at Trump rally killed by Secret Service. And let's read some of the comments. I'm not going to play the video because we've already been seeing footage, but I want to take a look at some of the comments. Did the shooter have a gun? What the blank is wrong with the media? So yeah, this person, was asking what's wrong with the media. Did the shooter have a gun? They might have watched the video. I'm not going to watch it. It says it's not an incident, it's an attempted assassination. So you have a lot of people on CNN's channel putting in their opinions in. It says, I'm in Australia and I already know the shooter was on a roof outside the venue. And yes, lady, he did in fact have a gun, or else nobody would have been shot. Christ's sake. The media is a joke. Did he have a gun? Oh, so I'm assuming in the video, so they're quoting this. In this video, they're quoting this lady asking if he had a gun. So let's watch it real quick. Let's just check it out real quick. Let's see what happens.
He is in a medical facility getting treatment for what just happened. Pamela Brown is with us here in the CNN newsroom. You're getting new information. What are you learning?
That's right. I just got out of that he did confirm one spectator is dead, that this shooter is dead. A second spectator is in serious condition. Importantly, former President Trump is going to be okay. We know from the Trump campaign statement that he is going to be fine. The district attorney confirms that he is going to be okay. He was removed from the scene, as we know, from the U.S. Secret Service. Now, the district attorney did not know if the shooter died through a self-inflicted, wound or not. We also don't know more details about what kind of shooter this was. I think we need to be really careful until we find out more. I asked did the shooter have a gun? Is that what you're saying? He said, I can't confirm that right now. I can't confirm anything about bullets or anything like that. So I think we need to be really careful till we get the actual confirmation of what kind of shooter this was. But the Butler District Attorney, Richard Goldinger, is confirming that one spectator is dead, a second spectator is in serious condition, and the shooter is dead. I asked him, how did this person, this shooter, that he did not have details about, by the way, get through security and have access
It's a good question.
Cause an injury to the former president there? And he said to me, look, that's the $1 million question right now. That is what we're all trying to figure out. And we know the U.S. Secret Service right now is leading this investigation. And that's a big question, because as we've heard, we just heard earlier from Wackrow, Jonathan Wackrow, Wolf, the security is so tight at these campaign events. You have a former president there. Security is as tight as it gets. And how this happened is just a major question.
Yeah, they got to learn from this incident, because these campaigns are only just beginning, and the current president of the United States is about to go to a whole bunch of rallies as well. And
yeah, we got 4 months to the presidential election.
Republican convention in Milwaukee this week, then a Democratic convention in Chicago a few weeks later in August. Already they had been planning, even before this incident, major security concerns. Various Department of Homeland Security officials, FBI officials, local law enforcement, U.S. military, and others have been engaged in worrying about what potentially could happen at these two conventions. And now, as a result of this, I'm sure security is going to be expanded even more so.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean,
if his head was turned straight towards the camera that's on him now, that would have been a headshot. Something happened. What happened?
This is a learning lesson.
Just went blank for a sec.
This happened here today, where you have, the Republican nominee for president, a former president, Donald Trump, who is injured. You have a shooter that somehow made his or her way into that space enough to injure the former president. You have a spectator who is now dead, and you have another spectator who is in serious condition. This is historic. This is a huge deal, and this is going to be the top focus for the Secret Service to figure out what happened. I'm in touch with the Butler County District Attorney, who, by the way, says he can make it on the show in a little bit. So we look forward to hearing directly from him.
Yeah, we'd like to speak to him if you can make sure he calls in. If it's even on phone or video, we'd like to get his thoughts and let our viewers know exactly what he knows. It's interesting that they're calling this a suspected gunman, a shooter. So clearly there were shots fired at the former president of the United States. That's why you could see him raising his hand and blood coming out of the side of his face. We're watching all of this unfold. Pamela, excellent reporting. Thank you very much. Joining us on the phone right now is Kip Tom. He was at the event in Butler, Pennsylvania. He was actually about 40 feet or so away from the former president. Kip, give us your eyewitness account. What can you tell us?
Yes, as you said, I was about 40 foot away to the right of former President Trump, but I saw this gun smoke and I heard the fire immediately, but it was coming from the stands to the left of President Trump, towards the top, because you could see the gun smoke. About that time is when President Trump went down. It seemed like there was maybe 6 or 7 shots, a little bit of a pause, and a person behind me about 15 foot was hit. I'm not so sure he isn't the one that was killed. But then I thought I heard there was a little bit of a pause, and then I thought there was gunshots that came from behind me at the same elevation as across. Now, it could have been just echoing across the area where we were all sitting, but the reality is it really seemed like there was possibly a second shooter.
A second shooter?
A speculation of a second shooter?
We haven't gotten any word of that yet.
Yeah, I know that, but I'm just saying.
Let's see how old this video is.
Coming from across, I knew.
This was reported 35 minutes ago.
Over there, and then there was a big cloud of dust that appeared, and then the shots stopped, but then additional gunfire occurred, and I thought it was coming from.
Okay, so I'm gonna jump back to the live feed on Fox, and let's see what they're saying. Get out of this.
President Trump.
Drop that, and then we're gonna skip ahead a little. Let's see. So it looks like they're playing the video again. Oops. There we go.
Make sure that we're connected in big crowds.
Just trying to go back to the latest.
In the audience behind him, but
there
there
we
were
go.
also a good amount.
Okay, there we go.
About additional information, whether the Secret Service has let something slip through the cracks or not. It's highly unlikely that that's happened. They are so professional and so detailed, right down to the manhole covers and things like that. So it really is going to take time to sort out and investigate what actually happened before anyone can point fingers.
But Marvin, you're saying that there are possibilities and contingencies that something can slip through the cracks like we saw today. You're saying, and I know this, the Secret Service, they plan for things like this. They check all of the boxes. They cross their T's, they dot their I's with this, but yet something like this happened. So do we have to ask ourselves, was something missed?
I think it's premature to say that.
Well,
I think you should wait until
the person got a firearm into the rally, so
sure.
Again, objectively speaking, something was indeed missed.
And I'll add one more thing in here. We're just getting some context from Lucas Tomlinson, Fox News correspondent, saying an FBI
assassination
flight team
investigation
is en route to Butler, Pennsylvania, to conduct an assassination investigation. Secret Service officials tell Fox News. How does an investigation of this sort begin, Marvin? An assassination attempt investigation is going to be no small undertaking. Where do they start?
Right. It's going to be massive.
Well, because the shooter has been killed, and obviously they have his remains in custody, they will start with that and work their way backwards to where he's from, who his associates are, what the weapon was, that kind of thing. It'll be an extremely intense investigation.
All right. Well, we do appreciate your time today. That was Marvin Jones. He's a former Secret Service agent. Thank you, sir. Take care.
You're welcome. Have a good evening.
Okay, so what we want to do next is we'll play through what exactly we saw earlier today. We play the images on the screen, but it's better served playing this with the audio so you get the full idea of how this thing transpired. You hear the pops. You hear Trump himself and his Secret Service detail that are huddled together right behind that podium, that live microphone. So you hear a little bit of that. Let's play it.
And look what happened to our country. Probably 20 million people. And you know, that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old. And if you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
I didn't even see the quick reactionary force team around the stage, but it is a tight camera shot, so shooters down. Jesus, man. Every time I see that, man, it's just chilling. Okay, so, just a few quick highlights. We know that the president, let me start with first things first. Former President Trump is recovering. He's doing fine. His family's doing fine. We're going to keep him in prayer, and we just thank God that he did not lose his life, that his life was not taken by this attempted assassin. The attempted assassin himself has been taken out by a Secret Service counter sniper. Unfortunately, there was a loss of life. One, I believe, a second one as well, a second bystander was killed. I think the second bystander died in the hospital from their injuries. The first one, I believe, was killed on site during the attempted assassination of former President Trump. So that's what we do know. Now the Federal Bureau of Investigations, FBI, is heading up to Pennsylvania, to the Pennsylvania area to start their investigation along with Secret Service. Department of Homeland Security has been involved, and they're going to, of course, again, like I said before, it's going to be a homeland issue because they're talking about a political dignitary and quite possibly terrorism. Man, just some crazy times, man. Stay prayed up and, just, again, be objective. I'm not going to lie. I try to be as even as possible, but I do not. This it just reeks of something, and I don't want to give in to speculation. But it smells like a rat. I don't like this. I do not like this. This is not good. It's not good for our country. It's not good for us as a people. This is not good for our planet. And I'm not trying to be like, tree hugging and stuff like that. I'm totally not that. It's nothing like that. It's just bad because, again, like I said, we're in an election year. We know that former President Trump has been gaining in the polls when it comes to him being juxtaposed and compared to the current president, President Biden. And these are not accusations against any specific individual whatsoever. But for the fact that it's election year, political rivals are being targeted. We won't say who it is because I think that I don't think that's wise. Let the investigation unfold the truth and just pray to the Lord that the truth will be revealed. 2024 has been a revealing year. So hopefully that will continue to be the case here, and that whatever assailants were involved, that they are found and they are brought to justice. Again, justice, guys. We got to remember justice, not social justice, not street justice, none of that stuff. I know there are times, we get into our feels, and I'm not saying I'm not avoiding my feelings. I have my certain feelings about this situation. I mean, let me be honest about that. I got my feelings, but allowing my higher brain functions to take over and not give in to any type of emotional proclivities, it only benefits our society. We need harmony in our society. Harmony, I think I muddled that. Harmony in our society, and to bring whoever is responsible all the way down the line, bring them into the light of justice that they may face their crimes in front of all of us, being judged by a jury of their peers. They have a right, whomever it is, has a right to due process by our Constitution. They have a right to a speedy trial if they want one. They have a right to counsel. They even have a right to not incriminate themselves, Fifth Amendment. So I think it's important for us, it seems like I'm doing a lot of thinking. It's important for us to remember our nation's Constitution. That is our country's guiding principle when it comes to the individual, when it comes to the three branches of our government, and when it comes to people who come into our country, both legally and illegally, and how to handle it. So I know I'm sounding a bit preachy. I just want to enhance calm. I say in Demolition Man, enhance your calm. I think it's important for us to keep a level head and not be reactionaries, because this could turn out to be a full-blown civil war, second civil war. That's something I don't want. That's what I don't want for my country to have. I don't want that for my country, specifically because from me being a military man and and just learning certain tactics of war, if America starts fighting itself, we have to look at the rest of the world that are enemies to our nations. I won't say who. It's pretty obvious who they are, whether or not they claim to be our friend or not, our ally or not. I think it's important for us to not eat each other, because there are people outside of this country just chomping at the bit, waiting for that to happen. We've seen the things that have been going on in our border as far as foreign nationals entering into our nation illegally, military-age men who look very healthy. And this is coming from a person who's been in the military. I've been in the military. I've served in the Army. faithfully for my country. And I know a fighting man when I see one. And those people, some of those people that came over into our country illegally in our southern border, they look like they're well equipped to fight. And that is a concern, not only as a veteran, but also as a citizen of my country's union. So with that being said, again, I want to enhance calm, level-headedness, allow our higher brain functions to take over and use wisdom and allow justice and pursue justice. So I hope you guys have a good night. Be safe out there. And if you guys are enjoying the content, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Hit that notification bell for the latest updates and the latest uploads for the latest content. Hey, be careful, guys.